Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition. Let's see what program. Home Gadget Geeks. It's been a long week. I was like, well, I almost said called the coach. No, it's the wrong one. Theme Thursday. No, I haven't done that in 2 years. It's Home Gadget Geeks. It's Thursday night. It's 8 p.m. Well, it's getting close to 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. It's the 30th of March, and it's maybe been the longest March on record, but hopefully you're in good shape. I have Erin Lawrence with me. Erin, welcome to the pre-show.
Hello, Jim. Hello, audience. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm even better. If you heard me open the can, you were kind
I
enough to send
just
me an
did.
all month. We've been celebrating your beers. This is Jasper the Bear Ale that I have here. Another one from Jasper Brewing Company out there, and I'm assuming Alberta, right? These are all
Yes,
Alberta
that one is an
beers.
Alberta brewing company.
Last week, I think it was last week, I had the black saison, no, the black pilsner, which is a
Mm-hmm.
lot like
Black
a
Pills.
Guinness. Yeah, yeah, a lot
Yeah,
like a
but a bit
Guinness.
lighter.
Oh,
Not
for
quite
sure.
as
No, for sure.
creamy.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll get this pouring. What do you got on tap? What are you drinking tonight?
I brought some Canadian beer. I wasn't sure what I should be drinking tonight. So I've got the Banff Avenue Ride or
Mm-hmm.
Dry,
Yep.
which is, I'm not actually sure what kind of beer this is, but it's Canadian beer. And
Okay.
then I brought along a La Quinta Brewing Company from La Quinta, California, the Poolside
Oh,
Blonde, just in
that sounds
case we
yummy.
needed, in case it was going to be one of those nights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what I
Mm-hmm.
actually opened was I had some leftover sparkling
Yeah.
wine, so I thought,
Nice.
don't want to waste it. So,
No, you got to get.
Jim, if I
You
get
got
through
to.
all of those, we're going to be in some serious trouble.
Yeah. Hopefully the before you, John Biggs sent me a pint of, I think it's unicorn farts. I think is what it was called.
Oh, is it any good? I've seen it.
Yeah, yeah, it's delicious, but it's 9.5. So like,
Hello.
yeah, you're like it fills this
Or
up,
goodbye, as the case may be.
and the guest I had Gavin Campbell on, and so towards the end of the show, I'm struggling to get words out, and I got like, woo! I said to Gavin, I said, woo! That beer. I said, man, it's starting to hit. He goes, actually, it hit you about 15 minutes ago. You just didn't know it.
And there's the fun of trying new things.
Boom. I know. Boom. Well, these are, this is 5. I think the one we had last week was 4.5 or 4.9. So
Yeah.
fairly reasonable, very sessionable, really good.
And about
really good
average
beers.
for Canadian beer, I think, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good stuff. I've enjoyed them. Thanks for sending them along. It's good to have some.
My pleasure. I'm been meaning to do it for a long time, so I finally made it a priority.
Was it hard to get them in a box and get them across the border?
Nah.
Okay.
You don't tell them what's actually in the box.
No, obviously. I'm just, but
it's soda.
Yeah, or whatever. Because do they ask? I saw a little hazardous waste sticker on there too. That must have been from a.
Well, they ask
another...
if there's any liquids. So, yeah, you're supposed to tell them if there's liquids. It's like, what is it? Soda. Carbonated drinks.
Yes, carbonated drinks. Yes, that would technically be right. So
yes, that's truthful and factual.
Thanks for maybe potentially having some international border problems between the U.S. and Canada, and you successfully navigated it. So nice job.
Yes, well, we'll see the next time I go to cross the border.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're keeping track of you. Well, it's been very delicious beers.
I'm glad you like them.
Thanks for sending them along. Banff. I think that was the brand of that pills.
A wonderful place and a good brewery.
Is that up near the mountains?
Yeah, it's in the mountains. So it's about an hour and a half west of Calgary. Right smack in the middle of the mountains. It's in the middle of a national park. I think it's one of the only cities in Canada that exists in a national park.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, good stuff. Brian, welcome. Good to see you. Ken, good to see you as
Hi,
well. Ken says hi,
Ken.
Aaron. Thanks for
Hello.
checking in. We'll get started here in just a minute. We've got a bunch of topics to roll through tonight. I got to let Aaron go at the top of the hour, so we're going to get started and get a full 55 or 56 minutes of content in. Have you guys had a lot of snow?
Yeah, it's been cold off and on, but then there's stretches of weather where it gets, like 10 degrees Celsius, which I think is 40 or 50 Fahrenheit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it warms up. I mean, if you call that warm, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a bit of a up and down winter.
Do you have snow on the ground still?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're
about you
pretty
guys?
clear. We're pretty clear. We haven't had very much snow. Lots of rain this year, and the snow that came is gone pretty fast. I think maybe it stayed around a week, at most.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's been pretty mild. We're in a little bit of a drought in this area, and so we could have used a lot more than I think we got.
Sounds like
But
California could send you some of theirs.
yeah, I've been watching a YouTuber who lives in the Sierras, and they have like 50 to 56 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Like the snow is hitting the top of the
Some of the
ski
video is
lift.
crazy.
I know. Yeah, it's just nuts. It may not melt. I mean, they may have snow that stays around all
Yeah.
summer. That
Yeah, that
they just
happens.
get
We've
they
been up
just get it done.
through, I think that was Crater Lake in Oregon in end of June, beginning of July, and they still had probably 10 feet of snow in some places. I mean, the higher you go and
Yeah,
the shadier it
yeah,
is, certainly,
yeah,
but there
yeah,
was still snow there.
yeah. Well, we could use a little, although now I think we're past it all, and it'll just be rain from here on out. I don't think I think our
Yeah.
snow days are over, or if it comes, it's here for a day, gone. Gone the next.
Feels
So.
like we're on the downhill side for sure.
I hope so. I'm ready for spring. All right, let me kick this
Yes.
thing off and let's get started. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 568 with guest Erin Lawrence, recorded on March 30th, 2023. Here in Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. Here in spring is on its way, Bellevue, Nebraska. And of course, we post a show with world-class show notes. And this week in particular, you're going to want to head out, the AverageGuy.tv/HGG568. Erin has given me some great notes and some great links, and you're going to want to follow her out to the site to get that done as well. Big thanks to Mike Weger, who was on last week. Aaron, he's like you now. He's a big deal, so he only comes on every,
every so often.
Every
Tell him I
often.
say hi next time you see him. It's
I will.
Well, it's not weird anymore not seeing him as part of the broadcast, but
Right,
it's certainly miss chatting with him.
Well, he did a good show. We talked about some golf gadgets, and we talked a little bit about, is it time to upgrade? I have iPhone 12 and a Watch 4. Is it time to upgrade? I'm certainly far enough away from both of those. So we had some great conversations with him last week about that. And so big thanks to him. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you're finding value in the podcast and you want to give back, jump on the Patreon team, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. You've already heard from her, but she's back. One of my favorite episodes always. Erin Lawrence is here. Erin, welcome.
Hello, Jim. Thank you for having me back.
Always good to have you. I kind of follow you on YouTube because that's a great place to catch all your videos, keep up with you, see what you're doing. And the gadgets are just keep coming. I mean, the hits it's not stopping, right? You've been super busy.
Technology does not stop. I think so many gadgets now are on that train where they're doing yearly iterations of things. So there's always something new coming out, always a new version of the gadget. And man, sometimes stuff I didn't even know existed or maybe has just come onto the scene. So it's never dull. It's a really fun job.
We spent time, I mentioned it with Uyghur last week. I asked him, I have an iPhone 12. 14 is out, 15's coming. Real quick, what's your advice? Do I wait right now to upgrade, or do you think I'd go with the 14? What are your thoughts on, what would you advise me on right now?
It's hard to say because I mean, Sometimes Apple does do that springtime drop, but it might end up being October, September, October.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think unless your phone is really killing you for some reason, unless it's really slow, you might as well wait at this point.
Okay.
If your screen was smashed or your battery was dying after 6 hours, I'd say, you know what, just go for it because there's probably not going to be that much difference between, say, the 14 and the 15. But at this stage, you might as well wait and see if Apple has anything new for us.
Good advice. What about, from a watch perspective? I'm on the 4, 8 is
I'm
out.
on
I
the
mean,
4 too.
okay, what your thoughts on that? Are you gonna wait till it dies
I'm
or
well, I don't know. I'm a little sour on the Apple Watch. The
really?
battery life is really off-putting for me. I've been using Fitbits. I think I've tried
Okay.
everything since the first generation of Fitbits. So I find them really accurate. They're really useful if you want something small and slim. I've got one on right now, the Inspire 3. If you want that smartwatch feature, you can get a full smartwatch. But the battery life on the Apple drives me nuts. You can't get a full 24 hours out of it. So you've got to either sacrifice having it on during the day when you might be wanting to get your alerts or notifications, or you've got to take it off when you sleep and you're not going to get any of those sleep metrics. So
Right.
that for me is really frustrating. And I'm kind of waiting for Apple to put on its big tech company pants and put a real battery into one of these watches. And then I will
Yeah.
definitely take another look.
Do you think it's the trying to have too powerful of features on a watch that just no matter how big the battery is? I mean, Windows has this problem, right? Every time they tried to scale Windows down to something smaller, it just didn't do it. Do you think the iOS or the Watch OS has that same problem?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's features in a lot of these watches that most of the average people out there don't need. Like, who needs a blood oxygen sensor? Honestly, like, unless you're an elite athlete, there's
Yeah.
really no point in having it. And they brought out that sort of newer version of the watch that is more geared towards people that need that rugged, elite kind of
Mhm.
gadget. So, I mean, if you want to reserve those kind of special features for something like that and people want and can pay more for that and get shorter battery life, sure. But I think there's probably too much going on. I think you've hit the nail on the head that there's too much going on for the average person. Most of us just want like, a few days battery life and
Yeah.
and to get our text messages and everything
Yeah.
else on the watch. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Apple seems like it's come a long way from being a true innovator in my opinion. So, I mean, their products are still great. They still work seamlessly together. And, I own most of them, but damn, I want them to be better at some things.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. We talked a little bit about that last week with, using it while you sleep or just during the day, and I kind of don't want it on my wrist at night, so I don't use the
Mm,
sleep features. I could put my phone in a sleep position if I wanted to for it to listen
mhm.
on some of those kinds of things. For me snoring, I already know I snore, so I don't know if I want my phone telling me that every single
Reiterating
day.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So, Ed Sullivan, who is super famous, you recommend something, he buys it.
Yes.
Last week, Uyghur was talking about the Apple, the Apple Watch 8, and Ed bought it after the show. And I
And
was a little bit like, well, he really likes it. I mean, he's so far.
okay.
He had just bought it on Friday. I was talking to him on Sunday about it, so we'll kind of see how that goes. I think I've decided I'm not going to replace it till it goes. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine just the way it is. I'll let it die. And then once it
Or until
dies,
you have a reason.
yeah.
Like, I mean, if they brought out something that was, 7-day battery life, okay, now we're talking. Now that's a reason I think to want to upgrade to that. But, the thing about the watch is it's a great watch and it's perfectly seamless, especially if you have an iPhone. There's really nothing better. Like none of the Fitbits as accurate as they are on the fitness side, none of them can beat that seamless connectivity between an iPhone and an Apple Watch. So I do love it for that, but that's the battery life is what's holding me back. And until Apple delivers more for my substantial money that these watches cost, I'm
Yeah.
gonna wait it out.
Yeah, I never would have spent $500 on a regular watch. And you can get them. I mean,
Right.
it's not like that's outrageous. Finding a $500 watch is actually pretty easy. I
Yeah.
would never have before these. No way. Are you kidding me? In
No.
fact, I used to hang out with a bunch of tech guys. In the watches were the status symbol. Everybody tried to one up each other with the watches, kind of thing. And
Definitely.
I was never like, no, no, no. Then the Apple Watch came out, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I'll spend $500 on that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a little ridiculous. Well, I've got some thinking to do about it. I think you're right. I will probably wait till it breaks, or I have to, or a feature or something along those lines comes up. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at Tech Gadgets Canada. You've got some posts out, and I will throw those in the chat as well as they'll be in the show notes. If anybody's listening to the audio, they can go and get these. I've been spending some time last 4 weeks. I'm kind of back on intermittent fasting, trying to
Oh, good for you.
try to lose a few of the pounds that I found this winter. Again, you know how that goes, right?
Just give them back to whoever had them.
I know. Couldn't you just keep them? Like,
Right.
I tell people. But you've been working on, and this is something I've gone back and forth on, but a scale that's connected. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was sort of looking around for some new things to review, and I thought, I haven't reviewed a smart scale in a while, and I've had a Fitbit Area 2 for a long time, and I thought, that's pretty old by this point, so I wanted to see what else was out there. And one of the top rated smart scales on Amazon happens to be the Withings Body Plus. So I thought, all right, people seem to like it. It gets really good ratings. It's a huge seller. So I'm going to give it a try. Now, I wasn't super keen on doing this in the first place because about 4 or 5 years ago, I reviewed another Withings scale and I didn't have the best time with it. It was a buggy interface. It was very difficult to set up. It didn't work very well. It just wasn't a great experience. So I didn't give it a great review. But I thought, hey, a lot of time has passed. I'm going to give Withings another try. So I ordered this smart scale from Amazon and it showed up. And right out of the box, it was very troublesome to get set up. I ended up having to call tech support. And I think I spent, over an hour on the phone with tech support while they were trying to walk me through how to get this properly set up. And in the end, we got it set up, but then it wasn't taking measurements correctly and it wasn't recording the measurements in the app, which is sort of one of the key features of this, that you're supposed to be able to weigh yourself on the smart scale. It automatically sends all the data and your weight and your BMI and your water content and body fat and all that right to your phone. So super convenient when it works. So I spent more time fighting with this smart scale, the Body Plus, than I did enjoying it and really using it and benefiting from it. So it's been a long time since I struggled with a product enough to say don't buy it, but I can't recommend it. It's too much trouble, too much of a problem. And the fact that you've got to spend, an hour on the phone with customer service to get things going just says to me that it's not for the average consumer. So that was really disappointing.
Well, I think sometimes in this tech space, we think every review it's got to be a good review, right? And when I saw you had reviewed this and you were like, I don't think so. I was like, oh, good. Let's talk about that first, because that's one of those things. I think we've, in some areas in the tech space, we've lost that. Like you just spent some time when we were thinking about the Apple Watch. You were like, nah, the battery doesn't work. It's not working for me. I think we get some reviewers get on this hype cycle where they won't really be honest, right? They're afraid the manufacturers won't send them anything again. And maybe that's true or not true. In your experience, did you pay for this? Did they send it to you?
No,
work
I
with
bought
them on
this
it?
one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I bought this one and I'll do that with a lot of gadgets. I do have companies that reach out to me and will ask me if I can review their products. And whatever the circumstances are for the review, I always say I won't lie, and I won't, like, I'm always going to give you my honest opinion. And if you want me to say something about this product that's not true, I will absolutely not. So I'm pretty upfront with companies that, you can send me something. And I certainly appreciate not having to shell out for it myself sometimes,
Yeah.
but you can expect an honest review. And I know there have been companies where I'm probably not getting sent something again, but that's
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
the game. And
Yeah.
I think there was a period of time, Jim, where a lot of gadgets were coming out, that a lot of tech companies were just really rushing to get stuff on the market and to be the first and to get their product out before their competitors. So we were seeing a lot of things coming out maybe 5 or 8 years ago that weren't ready for market, and they didn't work, and they were difficult to set up, and you did have to spend, 1 or 2 hours on the phone with customer service. But I think, in this review culture that we have, in the social media culture where people's poor experiences go viral really quickly, I think companies learned that if your product isn't ready for prime time, you shouldn't be releasing it and you shouldn't be selling it to people.
Yeah.
So those poor reviews happen a lot less these days than they did, 5 or 8 years ago. But I am always surprised when I get a product and it just doesn't live up to the most basic parameters of what a product should do.
Hmm. Well, Joe says he's glad he dodged that one and didn't buy it. He just picked up a Garmin scale. So
Oh, good. That's one I haven't checked out. I'll have to look at it.
yeah, maybe good opportunity. We bought a new scale. It's digital. It'll
Mhm.
track up to 5 people on the scale, but it's not connected to the phone. It's just a scale.
Mm,
Like, you just get
right.
on it and it tells you your weight type deal. And
Yeah.
even during this period that I'm doing intermittent fasting, however long it lasts, I said to myself, I am not ever once going to weigh myself, because that always,
Mm,
like, I get crazy about those numbers.
right.
And then I
Right.
start thinking about it too much, where it just needs to become a
Right.
kind of a lifestyle. How do I feel
I think so.
comfortable? Do the pants fit?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I've enjoyed this latest cycle, and I'm on my 4th week of intermittent fasting, has
Good
been
for
way more
you.
successful than in the past. And I'm not thinking about it all the time, right? I'm not like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm down 2 pounds, or oh, I'm down 10 pounds, right? Type deal. So,
You might be
well,
onto something with the not weighing yourself.
yeah, well, I
Just
think there's
just,
some with the
track how
watch
you feel.
too and all those things, right? It's at some point it's kind of like, hey, is this feeling good? Because that's why
Mhm.
we do it.
Exactly.
Apparently, that's why we're supposed to be doing it. So, anyways, well, thanks for your honest reviews on those. Again, if you're new to the podcast, listen to the first time. You can get all of Erin's reviews, techgadgetscanada.com, and they're listed out there if you want to check that one out. Appreciate that. I am interested in this one, though. You did get an opportunity to try out a smart, Hamilton Beach Alexa Smart Kettle. That's a lot of words to put together. What was that all about?
That was an interesting one. They kind of
Sure.
reached out to me out of the blue and said, "You should try this product." Because I think they've been reading the blog and watching the YouTube channel and have seen that I've tried a ton of Alexa smart home devices. So they offered to send me this kettle, and I thought, what why do I need a smart kettle? I mean, come on, I can boil water. You can put water on the stove, you can put water in a regular kettle, it seems kind of silly. So I kind of went into this review going, you're really going to have to sell me on why this is a good gadget. But in the end, I was actually kind of sold on it. It works really well. It was very easy to set up, and you get it connected to any Alexa devices you have in the house. And for those of you who've toyed around with the Alexa smart home, generally Echo and Alexa devices are super easy to set up, and they set up really quickly and easily without much work from you involved. So that's great. This kettle was the same. I think a couple taps in the app and it was connected. And then I was able to do things like, if I'm laying in bed and I've just woken up and, I want to start coffee brewing, I could call out to a lady to say, please turn the kettle on. And she'd turn it on. So by the time I get up and, get back out to the kitchen and stuff, the water's almost boiled. And then I could make coffee right away. So, and same thing, you're sitting on the couch in the evening, it's time for a nice cup of tea. Ordinarily, it's not a hardship. I could get up, I could walk to the kitchen, I could put the kettle on. But it's pretty novel being able to ask Alexa to do that for you. And then you only have to make one trip into the kitchen to make the tea. So I was pretty impressed by this. It's got manual controls and it sort of comes with almost like a heating, it's not a heating plate, but it's a base that heats the kettle. So it'll sit on top of this base. You can control it manually. There's buttons on it and there's temperature buttons. So if you have somebody in your house who's not very tech savvy, they can just push the button and turn the kettle on and it works great. You can also ask Alexa to set it to a particular temperature. So that if there's a temperature you like for your tea or your hot beverage or your percolator, Jim, you can just ask for that. Actually, I guess you wouldn't pour this into your percolator, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, you could though, to get it to speed up, like, you got to get that water. This would probably heat up
Yeah,
that
okay.
water to a certain temperature first, then pour that in, throw it on the stove to boil it if you want to do it that way. Just a faster
Sure,
way to
okay.
get to the perk. Yeah.
Yeah, to the end result for sure. So I was surprised by this. I wasn't expecting much and I kind of thought it would be a bit silly, but I very quickly came around to being a convert. Smart kettle, who knew?
Yeah, who would have thought? 1,500 watt power rating, maximum temperature is 212 Fahrenheit, and it took 5 or 6 minutes to get the water boiling. I think I
Mhm.
can get the water boiling on my stove in about 8 minutes 30 seconds, so a
Mhm.
little bit faster here than taking it. Not a direct test. Who knows the temperature of the water going in? Did you
Right.
did you make did you make much coffee? Let's get back on this coffee conversation because you coffee shamed me on the last show. So
I have done that in the past.
I'm not forgetting that ever. But did you make pour over coffee? Do you prefer that? I mean, how did you use this to make coffee? And do you prefer it this way to make it in a kettle, or do you still want to go back to making it the way you like it?
I like it because I was testing out an automatic coffee maker about a month or 2 ago, a Cuisinart automatic one, and then that one went back. That was just on
Mhm.
loan, so I used it, reviewed it, and it went back. And then I kind of always just have a pour over setup at home for those times when I don't really have anything to make coffee with. So that's what I've been doing since the Cuisinart one went back. And it was great for that because it did boil the water really quickly. The other thing I liked about it too is that it'll hold it at temperature. So you can set it to say either hold it like at boiling for, up to an hour or whatever you want. You can change the settings on it. Um, or you can have it sort of hold at a cooler, warm temperature, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
just found that was handy because if I was, not quite ready to get up or, we're watching a show and the tea is boiling in the kitchen, it's nice to just be able to wait for that commercial break, get up, go into the kitchen, the water's still hot. It hasn't shut off
Yeah.
completely. So there's some neat little tricks with this smart kettle that were quite handy.
You've got a picture on your website of you holding it, and from the pictures on the review, I thought it was a smaller unit.
Mm.
This is a fairly hefty unit, right? I mean, it's a pretty this how much water can this thing heat up and keep warm?
I think that one was about 1.4 liters, if I remember
Okay,
correctly,
okay.
which ooh, I'm not good at my gallons and my ounces.
That doesn't matter.
But it
We
made
should learn the metric system. So 1.4 liters. We'll learn
I
the
need to have
metric
a
system.
converter
Yeah, you're
on the
fine.
side here. But yeah, I mean, it made a pot of coffee. My pour over is small. It does 6 cups, and I could probably do 2 pots out of it. So, like a 10 or a 12 cup size in that kettle. It's certainly more than enough for 2 of us.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, would you know what I'd really love is to have a perk coffee maker that was
Mm,
this, right? Where
that was
I
smart.
yeah, and so put it on, put the water on, go to bed, night before. And then either
Yes.
on a schedule or,
Yeah.
hey, lady, start the coffee.
Mhm.
It would heat that water up, it would perk it, and then it would know to stop then bring it down and then keep it at a constant temperature. That would be a huge win, in my opinion, for coffee. What do you think?
There has to be somebody working on that because we have
Yeah.
the Alexa Smart Kettle already. There are Alexa Smart coffee makers that are those automatic coffee makers that you can get set up the night before and you just call for it to brew or set it on that timer. So, I mean, there are people out there who like their percolated coffee, who like, French
Mhm.
presses. I am sure somebody is working on this because anytime there's a need, technology finds a way to fill it.
Yeah, I just think bring it automatically, then keeping it warm, but not too warm, right? I've
Mhm.
been testing out those. I got it. Not testing. Kevin Schoonover sent me for Christmas one of those Ember mugs, right? And so I took
Oh,
it to work,
wow.
right? Pour the coffee in, it keeps it hot. It's kind of amazing how after a while, my coffee's been, from time to time, I'll take a paper cup around the office,
Mhm.
and it gets cold, and I'm like, oh, this is
What
disappointing.
happened to my coffee?
Why is this? And I guess I could carry it around. I mean, I guess I could carry it around the office. I just haven't done that yet. But I'd really love it to bring that temperature up. Bring it up,
Mhm.
boil it, perk it, then bring it down to a one, whatever we're going to keep it at, whatever temperature you want to keep it at. Would be great.
Mhm.
What's the retail on this? Did it seem pretty reasonable?
That one it's not very expensive, $79 US,
Oh, okay.
which to me, I mean, it's more than a stovetop kettle, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but, that it's not out of reach for a lot of folks, and
Yeah.
it would certainly make a great affordable gift,
Yeah,
reasonably
not
affordable.
terribly unreasonable. My daughter makes tea all the time, and she'll,
Mm,
you hear that thing kick on, and
yeah.
and then it boils the water fast for her. She gets that done and has her tea. And maybe this will be
Yep.
one we'll look at, the next time we need a replacement. How often, when you were testing it, how were you doing it a couple times a day? Do you think to boil water once,
Yeah,
maybe for
I'd say
coffee?
twice a day. Coffee in the
Okay.
morning, tea at night. And then the other thing that I did put in the review at techgadgetscanada.com and in the video, was the only thing I think this kettle is missing, so maybe wait for Gen 2, is there's no notification function. So
Mm,
it's missing. I mean, it needs Alexa to say, "Hello, Erin, your water is ready." Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't do that, and there's no push notifications in the app or anything, so I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity on this kettle
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it doesn't have that whistle feature, so I mean, because it boils water so fast, I guess you should just assume that 5 minutes after you ask for it, it's gonna be ready, so go get your stuff, but if you're anything like me, you've become distracted by any number of other things going on in your house and your life, and you're like, "Oh, right, I put the kettle on." So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I use the timers. I use the A-Lady timer. So I
mm,
put I mix it all to get it all set up, put it on stovetop, turn it to high, and I know 8 minutes is what it takes. So I tell the A-Lady,
yeah.
set a coffee timer for 8 minutes. And as that thing's going off, I'm coming in. It's about 15 or 30 seconds away at that point from where I need to turn it down. It varies because the temperature of the water I put in there to start with is not always
Mhm.
the same, right?
Right.
Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter. Then turn that to low and say set a brew timer for 6 minutes, and it brews for six. Then I pop the thing off. What'd be great is
You
if
got
that
it dialed
integrated with a
in.
smart stove. That would be the
Oh,
right,
yeah.
have a routine, do my coffee routine, and it would just heat it up. Although you do kind of want to find that sweet perk spot in the, in the
Mhm.
coffee where you're getting that perfect bubbling, and
Yeah.
you can start smelling it. And you're like, oh, and then you turn it to low really fast. Hope it doesn't boil over. Well, yeah, that is. I'll have to keep my eye on some of those because I still would like to go back to an automatic perk,
Mhm.
device of some kind. So if you see one, you let me know, and
All right. Eyes
I'll
are
buy it and try.
peeled.
I'll buy it and try it out, and I'll make sure it gets no patina when we're
Oh, nice. Good
when we're doing
job.
it. We are, you're also spent some time looking at a mixer, which, I think we're using more and more these days. It seems like that since the pandemic, we've maybe seen that a little bit more. but you get an opportunity to try out this GE Profile 7 Quartz Smart Mixer. These all have really long titles with AutoSense.
They do. Yep. S7 Max V Ultra Pro.
Right.
Yes. The naming conventions are getting a little out of hand. But
But
this
maybe,
mixer,
but
I was
maybe a little
actually,
pricey, right? Maybe a little pricey on this.
oh yes. This one is, I think it retails for $9.99 and $999. This is the GE Profile Smart Mixer with AutoSense, like you said. I was one of the first reviewers, I guess, to get it hands-on in my home. They had these out for CES earlier this year, which is the Consumer Tech Show. But I was able to beg for a temporary loan of one of these devices for a couple weeks so I could try it out here in my home and really see what it's like to use and if it's useful. So the premise with this is, not to cross brands here, sorry, GE, but it's essentially like a KitchenAid stand mixer, which we're all familiar with, but it has smarts tied in. So it has Wi-Fi connectivity. You can use voice control with it. You can control it with the app that comes with it. For the most part, it'll work similar to any other stand mixer, but it's also got these recipes that it guides you through. So I think one of the first recipes I made was cinnamon buns. And if you've ever tried to make your own bread or cinnamon buns at home, it can be a bit finicky and tedious, and there's, proper kneading and rising time and everything else. So I tried this recipe out, and I've got to say, I kept making the cinnamon buns because they turned out perfectly. The machine can tell when the dough is mixed to a certain degree. So it knows, it's got a torque sensor in the motor head. So it will tell you like, okay, it's had enough mixing, or it sort of knows according to the time that it's gone, how much more or less mixing it needs. So these cinnamon buns were fantastic and took almost no time to come together. They do take some time to rise, of course, and bake in the oven, but in terms of the mixing and the kneading, it was so easy. So, I mean, on that basis alone, I was in love with this machine. But there's some things about it that, that are sort of caveats. You can't just call out for it to mix. So if you picture like you're going to throw a whole bunch of things in a bowl, run across the kitchen to the other side of the room and ask a lady to start the mixer. No, because that's a safety thing, right? Like you don't want it just sort of turning on automatically all on its own.
Yeah.
So it's not as autonomous as you think. So yes, it has voice control, but the voice control will really only operate at certain times. So if you've turned the mixer on remotely or using the app or using your voice, or using the button on top of it, I should say, you can call out for Alexa to stop it, but you can't tell her to turn it on. So the voice control was kind of like a bit of a novelty that way. Like it's not running all your commands for you, but it's got this app that's connected to it. The integrated recipes worked really well. I think I tried 4 or 5 of them, and each of them turned out fantastic, especially the bread recipes. And I quite like the machine. The machine it's almost commercial size. It's very big. It's extremely heavy. It weighs over 50 pounds. But it's a great machine. It's one of those, if you own a KitchenAid or you've had a chance to use a KitchenAid, that substantial weight is something that you're going to have in your kitchen for a lifetime. And this feels like a similar type of device that you're always going to have because it's very well made and well built and very powerful.
Does look like a KitchenAid ripoff all the way. I mean, almost to the point where it's like they tried to make it exactly the same, but build the smart features in around it to try and get those in. As I heard you talk about it, I got the sense, or I got the feeling like, sometimes it makes you work a little harder than it would if you were just doing it on a manual mixer. Would that be the case?
There was an element of that because the way the recipes are, you can load them on your phone or tablet and you're sort of toggling between the phone and the mixer. But it's really not that different than people who pull up recipes on their phone anyway and are toggling between their phone and the mixer. But in this case, it's just telling the mixer what to do for you. So it's a different, slightly different way of doing similar tasks, I guess. And of course, you can use it completely manually if you wanted
Yeah.
to. If there was somebody in the house that wasn't connected and wasn't about to make connected recipes, you could certainly just turn it on and off and up and down and use it as you would use any other. But the recipes and the ability for it to have that torque sensing and understand when things are done or coming to be overmixed, that's the kind of thing where if you're new to baking, new to cooking, and you feel like you do need a bit of that extra help, this would provide that.
Yeah. You've done some of the kitchen robots where you put some things in and it does some things and then stuff comes out the other end. How does this compare? How does the experience compare? And I want to be fair. I think some of these things you get better at after you've done it for a while. With the
Yes,
HelloFresh,
absolutely.
we got better at it. Now we barely look at the
Mhm.
recipe. We get the thing in there. Oh, okay. You start, we divide up what needs to be chopped. We put some things over here, get a pot of water boiling, get the stove on at 425 fan, and you get good at it. Do you think the more you use this, there should be one of those tools where you wouldn't think twice about it and it would go a lot faster?
I think so. It's like learning anything new or when technology tries to integrate with any previously non-smart, appliance. I think there's a bit of a learning curve and there's sort of that initial awkwardness and a bit of a dance with how does the technology work with the appliance, and it you do get used to it, and I found myself getting used to it fairly quickly actually. The learning curve was not very steep.
Okay.
So, yeah,
But for $1,000, like that's a lot of money for a
it's
mixer.
a lot of money. Now listen though, a good KitchenAid, like the bigger
Yeah.
KitchenAids of sort of the same size and weight and capacity, those are anywhere between, 5 and $700. So we're not far off the price. You throw in the smarts, you throw in the technology, you throw in the
Yeah.
voice connectivity and stuff, and you can start to see the justification for the price. My sense of this mixer though is you might wanna wait and see what Gen 2 brings or if there's some firmware updates and more recipes that come in with this, because there was really only a handful of recipes. They were all really good, but
Mhm.
there's sort of limited smart ways you can use it right now. And the other
Mhm.
thing I was thinking is that KitchenAid can't be far behind this curve. So, at some
Yeah.
point, KitchenAid's going to come out with a smart mixer, and it'll be really interesting to see what that's like. This device, this GE Profile smart mixer, is certainly leading the pack. As far as I know, it's the only smart mixer out there. So it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the industry comes up with around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I bet others are waiting to see, will it float, right?
Mhm.
Will consumers buy it? Will this catch on? I mean, just because we can put smart in
Right.
devices, should we? Joe made a good comment out in chat. He said, "I need cinnamon rolls more out of reach, not easier." Like he wants
Me
a
too,
smart
Joe. Me
lockout
too.
mode.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Is there, Tony asked a good question. Subscription with this? Are
Mm.
they offering anything like that yet?
That's a good question. No, the recipe access that I was using was not a subscription model. Now, some of these other kitchen robots that you were talking about, to go back to something you talked about earlier, can it do as much as these kitchen robots like the Thermomix, which I think we've talked
Right.
about here on the show
Yes.
before? Thermomix uses a subscription model for those recipes and that connectivity. So this is a bit different that it doesn't. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point down the road, once we get over that this is new technology hump, there will probably be a subscription to get more recipes. The other thing about this gadget, though, Jim, is that it is just a mixer. Something like the Thermomix, the TM6, which I've reviewed before, which is that sort of full fledged cooking, steaming, baking, whipping, cutting, chopping kitchen robot. Um, it does, 22 or 23 kitchen functions. This mixer really only mixes. So you can't chop vegetables in this. You can't, you can't cook in it. So something like the Thermomix TM6, which I think sells for about $2,000 US or so. It might be 14 or 1500. I can't remember off the top of my head. But you start doing some comparising and thinking, should I spend $1,000 on something that will only mix, or should I pay a few hundred more dollars and get a device that can do 20 more things? So these are all the things I like to give people, the things to think about, and tell them sort of what my experience is with it, and then your budget and your needs from that point are up to you to decide.
I think, though, from what it does do, mixing, whipping, um, kneading, right,
Kneading.
some of those right, those are very specialized. I'm showing on screen right now some of the attachments for it. It also looked like it had like the KitchenAid. It had the front attachment where you could purchase additional a grinder on the front, or there are some other attachments, sifters, I think.
The
Where you
interesting
can,
thing about
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say
keep
the
going.
interesting thing about that attachment port, Jim, is that it takes KitchenAid attachments.
I thought it would.
So
Yeah.
really nice on GE's part to, for the folks that have those attachments kicking around. And I'm not sure how many attachments GE is actually making for this device. So to be able to add that and say, well, you can use the entire lineup of KitchenAid attachments is actually pretty smart on their part.
Yeah, and there are off-brand KitchenAid units as
Mm.
well that you can buy, or attachments that you can buy. I think in that area we wanted to do some of our own, like hamburger or pork, grind pork on the front of that thing. And I bought an
Mm-hmm.
off-brand one. It's not great for that. I don't know if I'd ever do that again.
Mm.
The fatty meats get all caught up in the grinder
Yeah.
bit, and it ends up not working out very well. But it is one of those things you could, if you did have some of those, you could use them along with it. Um, okay, let's move on because we got a few minutes and I got two more things I want to ask you about. One is, and we'll quickly blow through this. Do I really need Echo sunglasses? Is this a real thing?
It's a real thing,
Oh
Jim.
my
The Amazon
gosh.
Echo frames.
Okay.
Sunglasses that are also headphones.
Is that it? Is there any smarts on the
That's
inside of them, or?
Well, you have, of course, a lady is built into the
Right.
headphones, to
Really?
the
Okay.
sunglasses.
Yeah.
This is another gadget I got my hands on, and I thought, I don't see it until I tried it. Until I tried
Okay.
it. So, I mean, the toughest thing about these sunglasses slash headphones is that there's really, I think, one or two styles. So you kind of got to hope they look good on you, or you've got to not care how they look on you because you get what you get. But the premise of these is they're simple, plastic, very lightweight sunglasses. And into the side of the arms are built these, I guess they're just small speakers. They're very directional speakers. And they direct the sound sort of right into your ear, right above where they're sitting. So you can be out walking around, you can be driving your car, you can be walking the dog, whatever you're doing. And you don't have to have your ears plugged up with headphones or earbuds. The sound quality on these was actually really surprising. It was very good, and it was really easy to hear what was going on around me and to hear the audio. And of course, you can adjust it, there's volume and everything else. In extremely loud environments, if you're in a really busy, high traffic area, the noise does get drowned out to some extent, but I think that happens with almost anything you're listening to, whether it's a boom box or, certain headphones that aren't really great at competing with ambient noise. But it was kind of nice not to have, if you're walking around, you've got your sunglasses on, you've got your earphones in, you've got your phone with you, and it's one less device to need to carry around with you. So I really enjoyed the Echo Frames experience. I thought it was really great for walking the dog. I started listening to podcasts while I was walking the dog every morning, and just keeping up on the news that otherwise I'd be like, I'm not going to bring my headphones and I don't want to bring the case. And are they charged, and forget it. But just being able to pop the sunglasses on, they turn on automatically. And, I can ask for anything I want to be played. It was a really fun gadget that I didn't know I needed.
How much are these?
They are, let's see here. Oh, Jim, I didn't write that one down. I think they're about $200.
Okay. You can get a pretty good pair of sunglasses for $200. It's one of those kinds of things where you're like, okay, so the VR, the Oculus VR goggles do this same
Yes.
kind of sound thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think one of the things we don't think about, Coach, you're always wearing these in public. You're not going to wear
Yes.
I mean, I guess you could, but you're not going to wear sunglasses around the house, like to listen to your podcast while you're
No.
cleaning, right? So you're almost always outside and you're always around people, and then they can hear what you're listening to. It's not like it's private at that point. Right now, it's close to your head and it's kind of quiet. But if you're at the pool, everybody else is hearing your stuff. Does that
The
bother
way
you at all?
these are built, though, they're more directional than that. I wasn't finding a lot of ambient bleed of the sound, like, to people around me. Certainly, if you're cranking them up to full blast, they're going to bleed out a bit. But the way they're constructed, they're directing the sound more into your ears than around you.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
quite speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're not necessarily broadcasting it, but you
Right.
still hear it. I mean, as the kids were playing on VR, I was hearing the
Yeah.
Beat Saber music that they were, you knew what they were playing when they were
Yeah.
doing it. So I was thinking, what about battery life? I mean, I'm assuming rechargeable, so you're not putting batteries in them, right? Rechargeable battery. If you use it on a regular basis, what would you expect?
It wasn't that great, I'll say. I wanna say it was like 10 or 12 hours. Let me just see if I have it handy here. I found I was charging them kind of every couple of days. They have a neat little trick, though, where if you turn them upside down and sort of lay them on the counter or whatever, they go into a sleep mode, so they don't die quite as quickly if you do that. But I would often forget. So if I just sort of left them laying around, they would die a little bit faster than I really wanted them to. Um, let's just see the battery life on these 4 hours of nonstop listening. So
Mhm.
good for a couple days of a 1 hour dog walk. But if you can't really wear these all day is the trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm assuming they have the double tap like you can do on VR, where you can double tap it and it does some of those kinds of
Touch controls, yep,
touch
absolutely.
controls for you. Did you do many phone calls on them? I'm assuming they do that as well. Did you talk to
I
many
did,
people, and
yeah,
how's
that
that
I
experience?
I actually really enjoyed that aspect because I would have to generally be on a morning meeting, and, it's nice to just be able to take that call and take that meeting while I'm out walking the dog and not have to worry about, like I said earlier, toggling the headphones with the hat and a pair of
Mhm,
sunglasses, and maybe
mhm.
one of the headphones is dead, and it was convenient.
Would you exercise in them outside? Would you take them outside for a run or a bike ride or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I could definitely actually, bike riding is a good use case that I didn't
Yeah.
try them for, but now I'm going to, because again, you don't, between having your helmet on and the head strap, and you don't need more things to deal with around your head. So I think these would actually be really good for bike riding. I'm going to try that out this weekend.
I've heard that you might have a new bike that you might be able to try these on. Is that true?
I got my first e-bike. I'm
Wow,
really excited
nice.
about this. I've been debating getting one, and kind of thought, will I use it? Will I not use it? What am I going to do? So I was really excited to try one out, and I got the opportunity to try out a bike from a company called Juiced. So I got I think it's what they call a commuter model. So it comes with some really cool accessories that make it good for, running to the store or whatever. So it's got a rack on the back, it's got a bell, it's got a really comfortable seat, it has a headlight, just a really good package. So that's why I ended up choosing that one. But it's also got a really huge battery on it. I guess both in size and in longevity and distance. I keep trying to kill the battery. I think I've had it for about 3 or so weeks now, and the battery is still going. I haven't had to recharge it yet. So
Really? Wow, that's pretty
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. And so I'm new to e-bikes. So for anybody out there who knows a lot about this is going to sound, juvenile, but um, it's got pedal assist in it. So I can pedal and I can adjust the levels of health I get from the bike, which I think is so fun. I love that because I get to still sort of feel like I'm working, but I don't have to work that hard. And then, of course, if I don't want to pedal at all, I can just, use the throttle and ride it like a tiny motorbike. So it's been really fun trying it out. There's so many things I didn't realize about an e-bike. One of the things is they're quite heavy because the battery is quite large and heavy. So
Mhm.
if you're just riding it on your own, the bike weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 pounds or something
Yeah,
like this.
they're
So
heavy. They're heavy
if
duty.
you're doing the work, yeah, it's more work, but you get
Mhm.
that extra help from the battery, which is fantastic.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I've really been enjoying this one. I think it's a fantastic bike. It's a fantastic battery. I think it's really comfortable. I had to assemble it myself out of the box, which I have never done in history of me, nor do I know really anything about bikes. So I was a little nervous and intimidated about having to assemble it. But it was really only 4 or 5 small assembly tasks, and the bike hasn't fallen apart under me yet, so I think I must have got them right. Juiced actually provided really good instructions and video instructions for how to do it, so I felt pretty confident in it when I was finished.
Yeah, I showing some of the packaging there. It looks pretty robust from a shipping perspective. Now, wait a minute. You
Definitely.
live in Canada. It snows all the time. You're only gonna get to ride the bike 4 months a year, 5 months a
2
year,
2 weeks
right?
of the year, yeah.
Is it really that bad, or
No,
is it more friendly
I
than
mean,
that?
it's the cold. It's more friendly than that, but I mean, if anybody out there who, bikes to work or likes to cycle for fun and stuff, I mean, you've got gear and cold weather, gloves and hats and leggings and things that you're gonna put on. You can certainly bundle up against it. I'm way more of a fair weather cyclist. If
Yeah.
it's raining or snowing, if it's inclement, I'm not super inclined to go out on it. But I got this one because I wanted to be able to just go to the store, to grab a few groceries, to pick up a bottle of wine for supper, to, dash over to the library and drop off, a couple books without always having to get in the car. So the neighborhoods that we spend time in are really conducive to that. So I just thought, if I'm ever going to do it, it might as well be now, and let's see what it's like having a bike, and if I can, if I can make that leap to using my car a little less.
Yeah, I've often thought of picking up. I'm a 10-mile straight shot from where I live to Gallup, and it's a pretty easy. There's one stretch of road where it's a little sketchy, but you just go really fast to get through it, right? And I've often thought of getting a. I mean, I've ridden it on a regular bike before. An e-bike would be even easier. I have a showering facility at work, so I could bike
Oh,
there and
perfect.
even, right, shower and get ready. So I've been thinking about, do you think they got really hot during the pandemic? I mean, you couldn't find a
Right.
bike,
Yeah.
right? Do you feel like
Yes.
that's settling down and bikes are available and prices are pretty reasonable?
I do now. I've been in a few bike shops because I've been sort of looking around and seeing what's out there and certainly pricing out some of the accessories that I wanted for the bike. And I think it has gotten better. I'm by no means an expert in the bicycle market, but I would say the juiced bike arrived within about a week and a half, I think it
Yeah.
was. So that
Yeah.
was fairly quick. It was a
Yeah.
little quicker than I was expecting. And just the last time I looked on their website when I was writing my review up, it seems like they have them in stock. So yeah, it might be a good time to
Yeah.
start thinking
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I saw in your review it's got a spot for one of the tags, hidden air tag compartment for security and
Yes.
tracking. Did you put an air tag in there? And that's something you'd
Of
find
course I
handy?
did. Of course I did. No, it's actually so smart because the way they've built this, there's sort of security built into it. You can unlock the battery from the bike and take it with you so that nobody can sort of make off with the bike and under power. But they've hidden this little AirTag compartment inside the battery. And it's not easily accessible and it's not obvious. So if you've got it attached to the bike and it's locked onto the bike and the AirTag is in there, I mean, if somebody ever did try and take off with your bike, we've all heard those stories about, luggage and everything else and dogs and, missing bags and stuff getting found with
Mhm,
AirTags. So
mhm.
you would be able to track your bike down in a heartbeat and get it back. And I just thought that was such a smart option. I have no idea if every bike is doing this because, like I said, this is my first e-bike. But I thought, how smart is that? That's just a very clever design feature that I really appreciated.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and that it sounds like the battery is well built, well designed for that bike. I think you said about 28 miles per hour top speed, which is I think about average for that, and then about
Slightly
100 miles of
terrifying, yes.
distance. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I like it. That's going fast on bikes is my
I do
favorite
too,
thing.
but when
Yeah,
you're not used to it, there was 2
right.
things I had to get used to, and one of them was the speeds that you can get up to on a bike, and the other was because it has the pedal assist in it. When you go to ride a bike, you sort of tee up the pedal and then
Yeah.
you, like, go to step down on the pedal so that you can get some of that forward momentum when you start. Well, with this, because it's assisted, it will rocket forward with you if you're not expecting it. So the first time I got on it and went to, like, step down on it, it shoots forward and I was like, "Holy crow."
You're
Hang
holding
on.
on, legs are coming off the back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
but it
of
was
thing. Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, once you get used to that, we were talking about having to adapt and just get used to new things
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
technology and
yeah.
stuff. It was
Right on.
fantastic, and I'm certainly used to it now, and I love it. So I'm ready for that. It's like, don't try and beat me off the jump car. I got you.
It is fun. We have the B cycles, which are the community ones. You can get a subscription to them. You just check them out. You can
Mm.
ride them all around downtown. They're all electric now. They used to be manual, and they were heavy trek
Oh
bikes.
yeah.
Nobody wanted to ride them. They made them all electric, and now everybody wants to ride them. They're pretty great. Tony wants to know snow tires. Do they have? Do they? Have you ridden it in the
No,
snow yet?
because I'm fair weather, I wouldn't do that. I actually don't know if they offer snow tires. I think that you can swap in any kind of specialty tires that you want
Yeah,
anyway. So
I'd imagine.
if you, I don't know, do they make studded tires for bikes? That's not
I
something
think they do. I
I
think
would
they
try,
do.
but
Yeah, for the
yeah.
adventure bike people that would go out and do all those things. Yeah, no, they make everything. There's nothing they don't make these days. If you
Yeah.
can imagine it, I mean, if they have $1,000 mixers, if you can imagine it, it's
Yep.
made
I
available.
did go out and get a smartphone mount for the handlebars though, so that I can
Yeah,
have my
for sure,
directions
for
and my
sure.
phone
Yeah,
within eye shot and stuff and be
and not a
safe. So
magnetic one that actually grips the phone. So when you
yes.
juice that thing and take off, your phone doesn't drop and smash under the back tire, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I need to let you go, but before I do, what's coming up at techgadgetscanada.com that you got anything coming up exciting you pimp before you take off?
Let me see. What do I have? I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming. I'm doing a bunch of speaker reviews, which I'm really looking forward to. Some stuff from Tribit, some stuff from Bose. So as we head into spring and summer season where you kind of want to have those speakers for camping in the backyard, I'm going to put together a bunch of speaker reviews. I have Roborock's new S8 Pro Ultra robot vacuum and mop review is coming out probably within the next week or so. So that's Roborock's newest, biggest flagship. Speaking of robot vacuums, Ecovacs has released a couple of new vacuums as well, taken its flagship line up another level. So as far as I know, I think I have those all coming to me for reviewing this spring. So those will be on tap. And I'm looking around the test kitchen here to see what else I have.
Any toothbrush?
Trying another smart scale. Toothbrushes, yes, I'm going to try. Philips has a new toothbrush and a new water flosser out that I will be able to get my hands on with probably in the next month or so. Nice. So definitely. And I know how much you like to talk about toothbrush technology, so we will talk.
I do. And yet I'm still, I even got the okay to do the robot vacuum cleaner, and I just having trouble pulling the trigger on one. There's so many different options, and you do it. And I haven't pulled the trigger. I need to. But I haven't.
That's the hardest thing about tech. That's where the reviews come in handy, right?
I know, they do for sure. Erin, thanks for coming out. If you want to get more info on Erin, techgadgetscanada.com. Make sure you follow her on YouTube as well. Lots of great videos coming out. Click the notification bell so you get all the notifications, because you're probably a couple a week, 3-4 a week.
Yeah, I think I'm up to 3-4 a week. Yeah.
So make sure you're getting notified of it. Erin, thanks for coming out. Have a great evening, and we'll see you in, 2 or 3 months.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me, and thanks to your audience for listening in. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, on the way out, Jay is saying he'd like to get an e-bike, and so maybe he'll jump in there and get that done here. Thanks, Jay, for coming out tonight. Erin's always great to have on. This is an easy thing. I just kind of wind it up and let her go. She's got a lot of great content and a lot of great stuff. So appreciate her coming out. Okay, a couple reminders on the way out. One, guys, you can keep throwing stuff in chat if you want to as I close the show up. A couple reminders on the way out. One, don't forget to use, if you're thinking about jumping on the Nespresso bandwagon and you want $40 off your first machine, you can do that right now. Head out to Nespresso.com, MQU328. Get $40 off your first machine. I think they'll even give you a little dispenser to hold the capsules, a little capsule dispenser as well. So if you're drinking bad coffee, stop doing it. Drink good coffee. Get some Nespresso. And use that code MQU328. Get $40 off your first machine. I mentioned it on the show. Don't forget HelloFresh. HelloFresh is up the savings. They're now offering $110 off your first 5 boxes. Try it for a couple weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks. See if you like it. It's changed my life. And Joe, thanks for that. Appreciate you coming out. It's always, like I said, always good to have Erin out here. Give HelloFresh a try. We're still doing 2 meals of work. It works for us. It may not work for everybody. If you got picky kids or you're picky, maybe not. But give it a try. Get that deal. Head out to HelloFresh. Head out to Average Guy. The Average Guy. There we go. The beer's settling in. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh and get that done. You can also contact the show. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Find me on Twitter. I still am doing Twitter @Jay Collison if you want to join us out there. Join us in the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff while you're out there. Guys, thanks for coming out tonight. It's been a long couple weeks. We've got a couple shows. I guess I need to go back to that. It's time for me to start scheduling again. So we'll get some folks on. I think I've got Mark Robson in about 3 weeks. We're going to do some grilling, but it sounds like this weekend I'm going to need to get some more on the schedule. So we'll have more coming. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Love it when you guys come out and listen. If you're listening to this as a podcast, come out and join us live sometime. Be a ton of fun to have you out here. Just kind of goof around. Got a good chat room. Joe, Brian, Jay, Tony. Saw Ken a little bit earlier. Thanks for coming out. Always appreciate it. Always fun. Always a good time. I'll be back next week. I think we're all set. Thanks for coming out. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Guys, one of the things I've been doing is, if you haven't noticed, the live show is a little bit shorter than they used to be. And we're trying to see if that make a difference from viewership standpoint. I don't know if it is or not. but I've been trying to keep the shows just a little over an hour, as opposed to, I've been going an hour 20. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Any thoughts, chat room, to length of shows? Do you even care if it's shorter or longer? Do you, what are your thoughts? I mean, certainly you guys must be doing other things while you're listening on Thursday nights. Could just be sitting there staring at the screen. That'd be crazy. That's what I got. See what I got coming up. So Uyghur, 567, 568 was Erin. Oh, Brian Freelander's in 2 weeks. Yeah. So we just, Tony says a little shorter works for him when I have to work the next day. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just kind of worked out that way. It's worked for me. Brian says no preference. I think whatever the conversation leads to works. Some topics better for longer, others naturally maybe shorter. Yeah, and that's true. We just kind of take it that way. I could go on forever with Uyghur. You guys know that. With Erin, she needed to be off for another event, and so we had to get her out early. So, all right. Well, appreciate you guys. I'm gonna call it a night. I haven't been sleeping very well, and I need to get that figured out. But gonna try and get unplug and spend a little chill time before I crawl in bed tonight. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you next week. I'll have something lined up. Right now it's open, but I'll get something lined up for next week. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.